The Eagles with the complete draft. We're going to go over each player that they selected. There's always hope when you have a draft. Everybody is a great selection. They've got great athleticism and good measurables and all that. We never really know until we actually see them play. But by all accounts, the ratings on the Eagles draft was pretty good. So we're going to go over every single detail of that Eagles draft. Now, there are a couple of question marks that remain here after the Eagles draft. One is the tight end. They didn't draft the tight end. Does that mean Dallas Goedert is staying? I have no idea what's going on with that, and I actually am confused on why they would have passed up on 3 tight ends that were taken right in that cluster of tight ends. And the other is about the safety, Andrew Mukuba, and whether they think he can be a starter. I assume they drafted him because they think he could be a starter. They think they got 2 starters in this year's draft, but they picked him before other highly rated safeties like Kevin Winston and Caleb Ransom and Jordan Sanker and the kid from Notre Dame, Xavier Watts. So they think highly of Andrew Mukuba, and our own Andrew DeCecco was high on him as well and thought that that would be a good selection for the Eagles. In other news, the Phillies bounced back. After a long losing streak, they win 2 over the Cubs last night, Sunday night. They had 2 national TV games this weekend. Nola with a bounce back as they outlast the Cubs in 10 innings. And the big news out of this, Jordan Romano comes through. Yes, Jordan Romano and Nola with a bounce back. And, of course, you got the NBA playoffs and the no call, as Jim Jackson would call it, with the Knicks game. All kinds of stuff that we're going to talk about today, including I'm going to set the odds on the new Pope. Bill Colarulo is with us. Ray Dunn is with us. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Ray. Hope everyone had a great weekend. It was a huge sports weekend with the NFL draft and then the Phillies in Chicago, the NBA playoffs, as you mentioned. You didn't mention the NHL playoffs, which are also going on.
Is hockey going on? I was not aware of that. Sorry.
But as big of a hockey guy as I am, it was hard to pay attention to that with everything else going on. But overall, for the Eagles, I thought it was a good draft. Every single team thinks on Monday after the draft, they had a good draft.
Yeah.
You don't know for a couple of years. Now, the Eagles and our fans were spoiled last year because we found out right away that their first 3 picks, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and then later on in the season, Jalix Hunt, were solid draft picks. Doesn't always work out that way. It does take a couple of years, but I do like what the Philadelphia Eagles did. Howie Roseman definitely had a plan, Mike, because you look at their first 5 picks in this draft, every single one of them was on the defensive side of the football. It's the first time since 2010 that they've taken 5 defensive players with their first 5 picks. They've gotten younger. I saw a crazy stat this weekend that I didn't even think was true. I had to double check it. There is not a single player on this defense that was here before 2022. The longest tenured defensive player on the Philadelphia Eagles right now, Jordan Davis, who was drafted in 2022. Wow. They are young, they are athletic, and Howie Roseman clearly had a plan. Let's hope it plays out.
All right, so for the record, who they took, let's just quickly go over their selections in case you were on Mars. Jahad Campbell, the linebacker with the first pick, linebacker outside rusher out of Alabama. The only question is, will he be healthy enough to start the season? Does he have these other injuries that we talked about? Andrew Mukuba, the safety from Texas, they picked him the 64th pick. Defensive tackle Ty Robinson, 111, kid from Nebraska who practiced against the center for the Eagles, and they're apparently pretty close. Cornerback Mac McWilliams. I like a double Mac.
Yeah, it's a good name.
I like a double Mac. Mac McWilliams, 145, Central Florida. Now, is it pronounced Smile or Smale? Mondon.
I thought
Father
it was
said it was Smile.
Is that what the dad said?
Yes.
I thought it was Samael Mondon. That's what I thought it was.
Samael Mondon.
But he said
it's pronounced Smile. I don't know. Anyway, linebacker from Georgia. Drew Kendall from Boston College, a center guard. Always good to get a backup center in there. And then they went with the 2 tackles. Miles Hinton, 191. Cam Williams, massive guy that they think a lot of. They think this is a guy that the offensive line coach could really mold into somebody. Offensive or outside linebacker Antoine Powell-Ryland at 209 from Georgia Tech. And quarterback Kyle McCord, who will be on the practice squad for a couple of years, I predict.
Kyle McCoy. Well, if he's better than Dorian Thompson-Robinson, you may see him take over that third spot.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson, disrespect for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The guy's actually played in the league.
Yeah.
Had a higher pedigree than McCord. Come on, man.
But it made sense for the Eagles to bring in another quarterback. It's always good to have a fourth guy competing in training camp. So we'll see. Hopefully McCord can make the team. That's a great story.
Do you have any eligibility left for St. Joe Prep? Because their quarterback moved on. It's time. Maybe he could come back and put a cap on his career there.
It's another St. Joe's Prep guy on the Birds. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. too, man.
Yeah, and they played together.
They did play together. You're right.
Yeah, they did.
They did play together. Same thing with the safety Andrew Mukuba played at Clemson.
Yes,
with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And then the Eagles are also signing a lot of undrafted free agents now. They signed a couple from that Toledo defense that played with Quinyon Mitchell. Mm-hmm. So a lot of friends on this team now.
All right, so let me get you. Listen, Andrew Mukuba is the most interesting selection. John Campbell was kind of a no-brainer. What do you think of that selection? And they think he could be the C.J. Gardner-Johnson replacement. What do you think?
It's interesting because he's a very similar player to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, that he has the versatility to not only play safety but come down and play that nickel corner position, which is what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson started his career doing that in New Orleans. He's also, everything I'm seeing on this guy, great instincts. He's an athlete. He's extremely physical, but then you look at his size, he's only 5'11", 186. So that's the concern. A guy that physical, can he stay healthy in the National Football League? But the positives, this guy was a 4-year starter. He spent 3 years in Clemson. He started there. Then he transfers to Texas. He starts there. He was born in Zimbabwe, comes over to America at 9 years old. I mean, the kid just got a great story. The only negative with him, he's a little small, and sometimes when he tries to go for those big hits, he misses the tackle, similar to what you're dealing with Sidney Brown. But everything I'm seeing is this is a guy that maybe doesn't have as much upside as like a Jahad Campbell would, but someone that could step into a Vic Fangio defense and be a starter in his rookie season. He's going to compete with Sidney Brown. We'll see how it plays.
So your overall view of the Eagles draft was what? What would you say if you had to give it a grade?
If I had to give it a grade today, and again, these grades that people give this soon, it's almost impossible.
It is. It really is.
But where they were picking, we knew going in, they had 8 picks. They were in the bottom of almost every round to start. I'm giving them a B+ because I think with the Jahad Campbell pick, the Mukuba pick, and I do really like the Ty Robinson pick, I think you got to give them a B+ because they also not only took the best player available at times, they did get needs. They traded away Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Well, now they bring in a safety like Mukuba that could compete with Sidney Brown. They lost Milton Williams. Well, now they bring in Ty Robinson, who we know has an ability to rush the passer and create that interior pressure. When it comes to Jahad Campbell at linebacker, they lost Aaron Burks. We don't know if Nakobe Dean's going to be healthy. If Campbell really does play a little bit of edge, well, they lost Josh Sweat. They lost Brandon Graham. So the fact that they lost so many players on the defense and now they've brought in some players to replenish that, I think is a good thing. You could say the same thing about Mac McWilliams, too, being a slot corner. Yes, Cooper DeJean probably takes that spot, but who's his backup? You lost Devontae Maddox.
Well, as we go to the break, Matt Miller of ESPN, draft expert, quote, "We'll look back on this draft as a spark to continue the Eagles' NFC dominance." Woo! Everybody else likes the draft, or are they just drunk with Howie-itis? 610-632-0975 is how you climb into the show. Mike Missanelli Show. We're going to analyze every player coming up after this.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. Appreciate you guys checking out things with the Mike Missanelli Show. If you want more from us, check out the playlist right here to get this one. Check out all the playlists. There's a lot to watch.